Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. Today I want to do just a quick discussion video, and I'm going to really try quick. It's like I usually keep a limit of 16 minutes in my videos, and now it's like last two videos I did like reviews that I'm normally used to doing. I kind of bust them out real quick. Now it's like 22 minutes, so I'm sorry guys, but it's my channel. I'll review how I like, and you don't have to watch. So guys, what I want to talk about today is the word homage or homage. And so the reason I kind of got the idea for this video was, and I like to do discussion videos, just stating my opinion, because sometimes it's hard to get across your opinion through, comments, stuff like that. And a lot of times it just turns into a back and forth, right? We all know that. So I just want to give you guys my opinion on what is a homage. What's a homage watch? So now there's different definitions, and we're not going to give you guys an English lesson here. I'm not a dictionary, but one of the definitions of homage is it means to pay respect to. So, and I encourage you to check out the Webster Dictionary and read the different meanings. But homage is somehow a word that's been, and I kind of remember, I've been collecting watches for a long time, and I feel like homage is kind of a newer word. Now when I say newer, again, I know, so it's been around forever. It's newer to me, right? And so for the years I've been collecting, I've always seen watches that look like other watches when they're called fakes, right? They're designer inspired, replica, or fakes. Those are the three words that I've heard over the last 30 years of collecting watches that refer to watches that are not their own thing. They're taking somebody else's design, duplicate it, taking design aspects of the watch. And that can be said with purses, jackets, jerseys. I mean, you name it. I mean, if somebody's made something that's popular, somebody else is going to create something similar. Right? I mean, putting the ethics aside, it's smart business, right? I mean, if obviously Rolex is a super popular watch, so you have tons of different watches out there that are going to give you a watch that's similar in design and style that are a fraction of the cost. And the variations, the selection out there, there's so many different options for you to get something that looks like a Rolex. I mean, if you go across, just Google, Submariner. I mean, you'll find so many micro brands. There's so many micro brands being produced now. Kickstarter launches, Indiegogos, you name it. There's a company making something that looks like a Submariner, and so that's why you really can't knock, Invicta. You can't knock brands and do it because and even Rolex. When we look at what is a Submariner, some of the differences would make that a Submariner are just kind of subtle. A Rolex is, it's hard to really say that, oh, that's Rolex, it's its own thing, because, Rolex doesn't really look any different than any other watch that's been around years before it. They just put a few different things on it and they call it a Rolex. And that can be said for lots of brands. I happen to think Omegas and Seikos are more unique than a Rolex, but people love that name. That crown symbolizes that I spent a lot of money on a watch. The only downside to that is people are going to assume that ones that, from a distance, that ones that you are wearing in your wrist that look like a Rolex are a Rolex. And then if you actually have a Rolex, people are going to assume that's not a Rolex. And some people are going to think that's real, but they're going to size you up. They're going to be like, what's he driving? Where is he living? If you go and walking into your dumpy apartment driving some old busted up Firebird, people are probably not going to believe that you're wearing a watch that costs $6,000. This just doesn't make any sense. It's delusional. It's not delusional. It's actually not well thought out, I would say. But to each your own, right? To each your own, buy what you like always. But, that's just my opinion on that. So, but the homage watch is somehow a term. I digress. Let me get back to the homage. So in my opinion, one guy, and this conversation got sparked because I did a review on the Royal Oak homage and Nautilus homage, and I use that word. These are not homages. He gave some different word for what they are. And I was like, man, it was almost like this guy was, and he's a subscriber, and I like him. I'm not dissing at all, but it's like I almost felt like he was snobberizing the word homage. Now suddenly we have to deal with, homage snobs who are like, oh, well, it has to be a certain level. A homage means to pay respect to, and I personally don't think that whether you have a Submariner or this Tudor Black Bay homage I'm wearing by Nemours right now, I don't think these watches are paying respect. I mean, paying respect is kind of different. When you think of paying respect to somebody, I would kind of, in my mind, when I think of that, I would be, let's just say, emulating somebody. If somebody's like, and I know that I don't want to use this particular person because I'm not, and we're not going to go political. But when we look at something that, let's see, somebody, I'm trying to think of something that somebody does that's, you know, kind of a, well, okay, so without naming any particular person in general, let's say you have a figure that constantly wears a certain hat, right? Just make it simple, right? Always wearing a you know, let's just say a pink hat, right? This guy always wears a pink baseball cap, right? And then so let's say another guy starts to wear that cap, right? He's wearing a pink hat too. He's paying respect to the person wearing it. If he's like, oh man, you know, this is a homage to this particular person. He's paying respect to the person because he's emulating the style, you know. It's kind of a tricky word. And again, I'm not an English major. I'm not, you know, the most intelligent dude on the earth. I'm just saying when I think of what a homage means, when you say paying respect to somebody, you're producing something that is paying respect to the original design, right? And I understand that, but let's face it, when I think of the word paying respect, I just don't think of somebody copying a successful style and then pawning it off as being like, oh, this watch is paying respect to the original. I think it's just kind of a classier, for lack of a better word, a more, I guess, friendlier way of saying that we just copied your design. Right? Now, this particular guy I was going back and forth was saying that, oh no, homage has to have, he's getting this big long argument about how a homage has to have a Swiss movement to be a homage. I don't think there's any rules for homage, and so a lot of watch guys, and I'm not calling this guy a snob, but a lot of guys are so opinionated that they think that there's this list of rules that this can't be. It's just like Swiss made used to mean something, right? Oh, it has to be made in Switzerland. None of that, there is a stipulation, there is a requirement to make something Swiss made, but people have bent and twisted those rules so much that you can legally say Swiss made on a watch, not be breaking any laws, and it's considered Swiss made. You can look up on your own time what that actually means. But remember that when a watch says Swiss made, it does not mean it's made in Switzerland anymore. It might, but it's really meaningless. And the word Swiss made, there's so many good watches out there that are being produced out of China, Japan, all these different places that are just as good as any Swiss made watch ever produced. So it's really meaningless. It's an old standard to charge you more. That's my opinion, okay? So when it comes to a homage watch, basically, in my opinion, from what a lot of guys, even guys I don't like on YouTube, share, a homage is basically a watch that's copying the original watch, the original design, or a specific watch, and putting their own name on it, but basically copying everything else. Maybe not the movement, maybe it's not one-to-one replica, but it's replicating the watch without actually infringing the name. So you could have, you know, and that's how they get around people being able to wear watches like this. Your Pagani design, Submariner, Homage. This is a copy. They're copying a Submariner. They're faking a Submariner, but you're allowed to buy it legally because it says Pagani design, in this case, Burst Cigar, right? The one I'm wearing on my wrist, Neymar, right? This is a Black Bay Tudor copy. They're copying the case, the styling, the size, the bezel, the lettering. They're getting close without actually infringing on the copyright, or without actually infringing and saying, hey, we're just going to put Tudor on it now. You know, and I'm sure you can find them, but Neymar's not a company that does that. Neymar says, hey, you know what? This is a popular watch that costs $3,800. We're going to make our version, our variation of that. We're going to copy it, make a few changes on it. We're going to call it a homage. But unfortunately, the word homage, in my opinion, is really a bad word to describe these watches. What I like, a nicer way of being honest, is that it's an inspired watch. It's not designer inspired, because I don't know if, then it comes to the argument, well, is, you know, they say, oh, designer watch brand, Kevin Cole, Calvin Klein, designer brands. Then you have the argument of what is a designer brand. So really, I would just like to say it's a Tudor-inspired watch. It's a Black Bay-inspired watch, or Black Bay-inspired replica, where it doesn't actually say Tudor, doesn't actually say Black Bay, but it is a inspired watch designed to look like that. And from a distance, if somebody who knows watches might be like, ooh, is that a Tudor Black Bay? Really, this watch is not really anything super unique. If you compare a Tudor Black Bay, and Tudor did it to themselves. You know, Tudor is owned by Rolex, and basically what they've done is they just basically made a less expensive Homage, if we want to use that word, a less expensive Rolex-inspired watch for themselves. The reason they did that, in my opinion, is because they're like, all right, well, our watches are, you know, $10,000 for a Submariner or whatever the price is, depending on which one you want to get. Let's make a more affordable option for people. And so that's where Tudor came up to be. That's really my opinion on why you have Tudor, because they know that there's a market that people want to spend money on a watch. They want to buy a watch, but maybe they don't want to spend what they charge. So they take the step down to Tudor. Tudor's really the more affordable, or as some people say, poor man's Rolex. You know, and there's snobbery even with that. So to me, I mean, ultimately buy what makes you happy, but I would never spend $300 on a watch that I can get this for $170, which when you look at this side by side and compare it, the bezel, the way they designed the kind of like dime, or like kind of not gear edge, but like penny edge or dime edged bezel. Dime edge, not penny. Just the way that the knurling is around there, the style of the bezel, the crown. When you look at the comparison between the two, for $3,800, you know, I could see if the watch was something that you're going to get that's just like amazing. Now, granted, it is COSC certified, so you are going to get a watch that's supposedly more accurate. But, you know, remember, guys, you know, the accuracy really comes from the movement and, of course, regulation of the movement. And so there's plenty of Invicta watches that are more accurate, that are automatic, than a Rolex or a Tudor that needs to be serviced or needs to have some work done on it or be regulated. So really, ultimately, at the end of the day, it just really comes down to buying what you like and what's important to you. I don't care if a watch is super accurate. I don't care if a watch has a certain name. I wear it because I like the styling, because of I like having a huge collection. I like variety, and that's really, and I like a certain level of quality. You know, and I have watches that are what we'd call really cheap, like my Pin Time iced out watch. It's a $20 watch, right? And when you put a watch like that on, you can feel, it feels like a $20 watch. When you compare it to a Pro Diver, there's a night and day difference. That's a huge difference, right? But when you compare the Pro Diver to a Rolex or a Tudor, or the Neymar to a Rolex or a Tudor, it's not that night and day difference. There are differences, I'm sure, but somebody's going to have to point those out. They're very subtle differences, and in most cases, you're going to have to put the watch under a macro lens to see those differences. And so at that point, why bother? This is my opinion, guys. So that's just I just want to kind of talk about that. Again, even with, you know, this watch game, this whole watch collecting thing, you just, people suck. You know, and I don't mean to, I'm not dissing on this guy. He's been a subscriber for a long time. I appreciate his comments and taking the time to comment. But it's like people just really always have to, you know, even like, you know, snobberize, in my opinion. I'm not saying he was exactly doing that, but it's like now there's a certain standard for a homage, a word that that was never even related to watches. You know, if you really want to have, you know, again, it's like trying to duplicate Swiss made. You know, it'd be like Homage made, you know, or H made. Let's just pick it. And if they want to do something that's regulated and to use a certain logo, Homage is not some regulated designation like Swiss made is, was, and still is, right? You know, you can't just say, oh, well, Homage has to have this. There's nobody regulating that. There's nothing stating that a watch is not a Homage if it uses a Seiko movement, a Seagull movement. A Homage is basically just a copy. That's it. That's really all it is. So I just wanted to touch base on that, in my opinion. And for any of you who are wondering, what's a Homage? I hear that word a lot. That's what a Homage watch is. Again, decide what you want to call watches. Again, just to repeat myself, a fake, a replica has the branding, you know, looks just like a Rolex, says Rolex. A homage, basically, or I would say designer inspired, another word that I mentioned, basically looks just like a Rolex, but it doesn't actually say Rolex, so has its own name. So one's legal, one's illegal. That's the easiest way I can describe it to you guys. Again, no judgment. Wear what you like, buy what you like. If it gets, ultimately buy whatever you like. If it gets a watch on your wrist, then you're part of the club, right? You're part of the group. You're part of the watch wearing group. So, and you know, you guys are always more than welcome to, you know, I have a Facebook group called Invicta Addiction, INVICTA DDICTION. You know, it's an Invicta watch support group, you know, for people to give wrist shots, share different models they bought. You don't have to just like Invicta to be there. It's open to anybody who likes watches. If you like, if you don't even, if Invicta isn't your thing and you like Seikos, we love seeing the wrist shots. We love hearing about the different designs and different styles. Everybody's welcome as long as you're respectful and don't hate on other people because they're not wearing what you like. Always, it's fun. It's great to have different watches in your collection. So with that being said, I'm going to close. Thanks for watching the video, guys. As always, if you take the time to comment, give the video a thumbs up. If you do that, I appreciate it. If not, do what you like and I don't care. I'm going to keep busting out these videos and sharing my opinion and cool watches with you guys. So off the subject of watches, stay tuned. I got some more stuff coming in the mail. I got some hair volumizing stuff that came out by... I forget the name of the company. It just came today. So if you guys do watch me and you miss some of the videos I premiere or release, I got that coming. And again, today is, what day is today? I don't even know what day it is half the time. I really don't. What is it, the 10th? No, 14th. It is 14th. Woo. So hairstyling products, a new kind of powder you put in your hair. You guys know I'm always looking for something to volumize, right? I mean, it is what it is, right? So we're going to give that a review. I got a new leather jacket company I'm working with. They're going to send me another leather jacket or a leather jacket, so stay tuned for that. You guys know I love leather as much as I love watches. I got a great AbramTech sound Bluetooth speaker. If you haven't checked out AbramTech, if you want a Bluetooth speaker that bangs, I mean bumps, and I'm not joking, this coming from a guy who knows what bumping's all about, right? If you want something that just, if you haven't checked out the videos I did on the previous AbramTech, check that out. This is their 200 watt version. This thing's gonna pound, and they look great too. Cosmetically, they're awesome. So I mean, just to let you guys know, spend money on like a smart speaker, spend $300. Get a smart assistant, the small one, like an Amazon Echo, what is it called, the Dot, for like $9. Pair that with one of these, you're gonna be getting a killer smart speaker. So anyway, guys, just some stuff coming down the pike. I probably got more stuff here I'm gonna share with you guys. I can't remember right now. I gotta go eat. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to be notified anytime I upload a new video. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm always here to help. Have a good evening and take care.